not for this particular contract, there probably would have been a number of smaller proposals or contracts that we would have needed to approve otherwise because we needed that assistance for ACO compliance or for project management services. So this has really helped us to streamline those processes because we can just make the decisions to move forward administratively when we have this budget to work with.
Very good. Thank you, City Manager O'Toole. Mr. Briggs, I apologize that I did not recognize you. Is there anything that you'd like to add at this time for the record? Not at this time. Very good. Mr. Rubel, is there any comment that you would like to make?
Just very briefly, it certainly has been my pleasure to help the city through most of this year with rather miscellaneous type tasks needed at the plant. And actually, just to let you know, I complete a list every week of what we accomplished and what we're still ongoing. And I think I've actually crossed the hurdle here recently where the list of things completed is getting much longer than the list of things to go forward. So it gives me a little pleasure to see the completed list grow longer every week. But if there's any other questions, I can field them.
Very good. Why don't you hang tight at the podium, Mr. Rubel, in the event that there are questions from my council colleagues. The chair will entertain questions at this time, either for the city manager, Mr. Briggs, or our guest, Mr. Rubel from Tetra Tech. Are there questions? Ms. Dillon.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I just wanted to thank Mr. Rubel for your ongoing support and diligent work.
My pleasure.
For the city. I know there's been quite a long list, and I really am very impressed with the progress that you've made in a short amount of time.
Thank you very much.
Additional questions? Mr. Camero-Sulak.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you clarify, so there's some open projects.
Yes.
Is that the third high service pump, the green sand, media, and infiltration basin, or are they additional to that?
Oh, those would be construction projects that are still out there. There's probably another 15 to 20 small items. Just today, I assisted updating a regulatory report for the state of Michigan that you're required to do. So it's not a construction project, but it's something that's needed. That would be one example.
Okay, so tasks that need to be done very timely.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you for your service.
Thank you. Any additional questions? We'll transition to discussion on the motion. There appears to be none. Mr. Rubel, thank you. We'll proceed to vote then. We have a motion on the floor moved by Girbach, seconded by Camero-Sulak to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 21-209, Nova Filter Panels. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the memo from Wastewater Treatment Superintendent Briggs and to approve or not to approve the purchase of an additional 40 Nova Filter screen replacement as suggested by Novell in the amount of $26,000 plus freight costs.
Move to acknowledge and approve.
Moved by CO to acknowledge and to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded again by Camero-Sulak. Mr. Briggs, would you care to comment on your memo? Yeah, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium, just so that we get your voice recorded and it's audible for those who are in the audience and might be viewing this meeting remotely.
Well, part of the reason I think we need to go ahead and get these started is because of the price increase that's going to occur in January. And also because we're having trouble getting the 15 that we've already got on order. So we figured we'd get the next order started and maybe we'll get them in a more timely manner. I don't know.
Good. Seems reasonable and straightforward to me. I'll open it up for questions from the dais for our wastewater treatment superintendent. Councilmember Camero-Sulak.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Superintendent Briggs.
Good evening.
Good to see you.
You too.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I just have a couple quick questions.
Sure.
So we're having a difficult time getting the 15 that are in order. Is there a time frame that they can be delivered?
Not at this time. The problem is they're coming from Europe. It's the only place we can get them. And everybody knows the shipping issues that are going on. But Novell is I've had discussions with them about trying to fly them instead of ship them on a ship to get here. They're not really very big or very heavy, so the shipping cost would probably outweigh the amount of time it would take to get them here on a freighter, so.
Maybe Amazon.
Well, if you can get them on Amazon, you're doing good. Like I say, it's kind of a sole source thing. So,
Well, I agree with ordering another 40 and making sure that we have them for the future need. I just hope it doesn't take a year for
well,
us to get those 40, but it does make sense getting them before the prices go up more. So that's all I have. Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
you're welcome.
Very good. Additional questions for our superintendent? Councilmember Dillon.
Thank you. I have two questions. Is this a budgeted expense, or is it a pull-ahead budgeted expense, or?
It's not really budgeted. It's going to come out of O&M,
Okay.
operations and maintenance.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, are we getting the expected lifespan out of the panels right now?
Well, that's hard to say. Some of them are doing real well. In fact, one of the reasons I assumed that we should get some after talking with Novell is because some of the panels that are in the filters right now have been in for quite a long time, and they will tend to fail over time. So we're just trying to, they're suggesting 20% on hand to replace as they fail. And it's not like we're going to go in and replace all 40 or anything, because we don't really know which ones are bad. So, it's just one of those things that, as they fail, we're going to have to replace them. And if we don't have them, as a matter of fact, we don't have any spares right now. We put the last two in last week that we have. So I'm going to make another phone call to Novell today or tomorrow and find out where we're at. Keep
Well,
moving.
thank you very much for your proactive approach in ordering ahead for those then. I'm all set, Mayor.
Thank you. Additional questions? Mr. Delarico?
Thank you, Mr. Briggs. My question may be suited for you or Mr. Rubel, I'm not sure. The Nova Water Company originally that ceased business operations, is that a recent development, or is that something that's been true for a while?
I think it's fairly recent.
Within the last year,
Okay.
Yeah.
So the filters that we have in place now, were they made by Nova or Novell?
Nova.
Okay, so we don't have any experience yet with this third-party sole source distributor now?
No, they're, as far as I know, they're distributing parts. They're not really, I'm not sure they're even making them anymore. Do you know, Brian? I'm under that impression that these Nova filters are not widespread.
Right, right.
Nova has projects all over the country, and I think there was a contractual relationship between Novell and Nova. I believe Novell did much of the manufacturing for Nova.
Under Nova, okay.
Correct.
Okay, so we're getting essentially the same product that we already have tested and know what to expect and,
I believe that is correct.
okay. And it's not like we have a choice. It sounds like they're the only game in town.
Correct.
I think that's probably correct as well. I have not shopped other vendors, but
Okay.
This is the logical place to
All right,
seek a replacement.
okay. All right, thanks. That's it.
Very good. Additional questions? Discussion on the motion. Bill, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay. And we do have a motion on the floor moved by CO, seconded by Camero-Sulak to acknowledge and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 21-210, which is a city board commission policy. This will be a motion to approve or not to approve the City of Saline Board and Commission, a request of city support policy as submitted. This is simply codifying pretty standard practice in the City of Saline. Is there a motion to approve or not to approve? Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Girbach to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Delorco. Thank you, sir. City Manager O'Toole, would you care to comment?
Certainly. I think you stated it correctly. Really, this is just an opportunity for us to codify what our existing procedures are and create a policy that helps to clarify expectations, especially for our staff liaisons, as well as new board and committee members regarding how they go about requesting funds and support from the city for their efforts on those respective committees.
Very good. Are there questions for the city manager? Is there discussion on the motion? Easy enough. Then we will proceed to vote. There is a motion moved by Girbach, seconded by Councilmember Delorco to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 21-211. This is ARPA distribution. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the October 21st, 2021 memo from City Manager O'Toole and to adopt or not to adopt resolution number 2021-211-1 for the distribution of American Rescue Plan Act funds. Is there a motion?
Motion to receive
Um,
the memo, but not to approve.
Okay, so you want to move then to acknowledge receipt?
Correct.
Okay, moved by Krause to acknowledge receipt, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Girbach. City Manager O'Toole, would you care to provide a brief overview of your memo of October 21st?
Certainly. So as council is aware, the city has been allocated an award of $977,918 from the American Rescue Plan Act. That distribution will occur over two separate payments, one in fiscal year 21, which we've already, or sorry, fiscal year 22, which we're in and we've already received, and one in fiscal year 23. During our work session regarding the recommendations of the Rec Center Sustainability Task Force and during our fiscal year 22 budget discussions, we had discussed setting aside a portion of that allocation for the Rec Center. Treasurer Bennett has completed the MGFOA, which is the Municipal Government Financial Officers Association standard template for ARPA fund use, and calculated a general fund revenue loss of $989,040, and as previously discussed, a recreation complex fund revenue loss of $1,238,525. It is our recommendation that we use part of those funds to at least make the recreation center whole on its fiscal year end 20 general fund reserve balance, which would be, sorry guys, there's a ton of numbers to reference, $484,032. The remaining funds would then be used to recover lost general fund revenue, which from there would be able to be used in any way that we normally use general fund revenue, so relatively unrestricted.
Very good. Thank you. That was an excellent overview. Councilmember Krause, did you have questions?
I did. So we have spoken about using the rest of these in different ways over the last number of months, and how are we, let me see how are we putting a pin in these ideas, and when will that be decided? Because we've talked about microloans in support of our small businesses. We also talked about some of our commitments with the absences that we spoke about last council meeting. How are we keeping these ideas on the radar to make sure that one doesn't get bulldozed by the other?
Sure. So right now, we kind of have, internally, I kind of keep a tally of things that I know may or may not be budget amendments, and we'll have our first budget amendment discussion in January. What I would recommend is maybe we use this time, or maybe we just include it as a discussion item in a future council meeting, but we start to articulate what those use of funds looks like. The alternative is, just like we do every year, we wait to see after we receive our audit what our general fund balance is, and we make an allocation decision from there, just like we will with this fiscal year. Once we receive the audit report, we'll make an allocation of those funds based on what's actually available, which may be more than that amount by that time.
If I may, to Councilmember Krause, I think that's an excellent question. I would also recommend that when City Council and staff convene our annual strategic planning process, which will begin later this month, that be a focus of our discussion, how best to allocate some of these additional dollars in the ensuing year. I also think that we'll end up having a focused discussion on how these dollars should be spent when we initiate the 2022-2023 budget cycle in the spring of next year.
Okay, but so far, nothing else has been committed except for the rec center funds that we've already discussed?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'd like to keep it as a discussion item in a future meeting then as well.
Very good.
Thank you.
Additional questions for the city manager, Mr. Girbach?
Manager O'Toole, is there any type of reporting or auditing aspects that we have to maintain for this ARMA money?
Yes, we do have to prove the general fund and the recreation complex governmental fund revenue loss, and that's why Treasurer Bennett has completed that preliminary worksheet that was provided for us that actually uses actual figures from fiscal year 20 and fiscal year 21. And we can submit through the end of fiscal year '23, but we've already got more than enough revenue loss to account for our allocation.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Mr. DeLarco?
Just real quick, when the state made these allocations, or the federal relief program, did they take into account each municipality's projected revenue losses, or did they just base it on population density?
It was just based on population.
Okay.
It was actually based on the ACS, the community survey population. So we benefited slightly because that number was higher than our census.
Okay, thank you, that's all I wanted.
Any additional questions? Okay, we have a motion on the floor simply to acknowledge receipt of the October 21st, 2021 memo. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. How about a motion now to adopt or not to adopt resolution number 2021-211-1?
So moved.
To adopt, Councilmember Krause?
Yes.
Thank you. And was that a second by Girbach? Yes. Thank you. Is there any additional discussion on the motion? There appears to be, I'm sorry, Councilmember Dillon.
Just for clarification, the dollars that will go to general fund, do they have to be classified as anything? Do they have to be a separate line item?
We do have them tracked in a separate line item. I don't have the budget in front of me, but we did allocate or budget for those funds, so we have a separate line item on the revenue side.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Any additional discussion on the motion? No? Well, City Manager O'Toole, thank you for your work on this, and also thank Ms. McDonough and Treasurer Bennett as well. All those in favor of adopting the resolution as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the last action item of the evening, which is new business item 21-212, Lot 13 Woodland Real Estate Purchase Development Agreement. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the October 27, 2021 memo from Assistant City Manager Greene, and to approve or not to approve the real estate purchase development agreement between the City of Saline and Todd Gensheimer for parcel number 18-12-30-430-015 as presented for a purchase price of $125,000, and to authorize, not authorize, the mayor to sign.
Move to acknowledge, approve, and authorize.
I'll
And
second.
properly moved by CO to acknowledge, approve, and to authorize, and that was seconded by Mr. Camero-Sulak. I will begin with Mr. Greene. I believe the applicant, the petitioner, is here, so if he would like to make a comment, we would welcome that. And I'll also defer to Mayor Pro Tem Girbach and Councilmember CO, who assisted staff on the development of this purchase agreement. Mr. Greene, the floor is yours.
Perfect, thank you, sir. So we're back trying to sell another piece of city-owned property. This time is Lot 13 on Woodland Drive. Yes, we do have two Lot 13s, so this one is specifically on Woodland Drive. City Council did approve to sell this back in 2020. Unfortunately, during the due diligence period, that project failed, mostly due to COVID, but that developer did not wish to come back at this time. We were approached by Todd Gensheimer back in early October regarding an opportunity to move Michigan Sports Academy on this location. When we were reviewing the letter of intent and when we met with him via our real estate team, we understood the fact that only about 2.5 acres of this 3.2 acre parcel is developable, and that's because of setbacks and because of drainage and a railroad easement on the eastern portion of the property. Additionally, with this property, it does sit below grade, so the engineering, and when they're developing the property, they're going to have to spend a significant amount of money putting specialized footings in the ground or bringing dirt to the property to level out the ground. That's why our team felt this was a reasonable offer for this piece of property, even though Mr. Caparisi had the market value at about $160,000. So based on the memo in our meeting, it's going to be for Michigan Sports Academy. We believe 7 to 10 jobs will be relocated from their current location and saved within the city of Saline, and the investment for the project will be roughly $1 million. So I'm here for some questions. Todd's also here to answer some questions, and we'll take it from there.
Todd, do you want to, well, first of all, we welcome you here this evening. For the public's benefit and for council's benefit, do you want to provide maybe a 1 to 2 minute overview of what your business entails specifically, and how quickly you'd like to break ground and move your enterprise to the city of Saline?
Okay, I'm a developer, so I'm not Michigan Sports
Excuse me.
Academy, and so
Yep.
I won't be moving to the city of Saline. The project's pretty straightforward. I've been a developer for 25 years. Most of my properties are in Ann Arbor, Washtenaw County, Chelsea. This would be the first project in Saline. Michigan Sports Academy has been a tenant in the industrial park now for 13 years. They've been operating in Washtenaw County for 20 years. They're run by Chris Harrison, a retired Michigan baseball coach. The R&B factory that they sublet in was sold to Rosedale Products. Rosedale Products adopted their lease and then told them that they have they're not going to extend their lease. So they're homeless. We looked at varying locations. They would like to remain in the industrial park in Saline. We've identified this lot. We pursued a couple of lots in the industrial park. We identified this lot as the only practical and available lot, given the budgetary constraints of the project. It's a pretty straightforward building. It's 100 by 120, 20-foot high ceilings. It's going to be a PEMB, pre-engineered metal building with decorative split-face block on the front and the sides to meet the industrial standards, the industrial park appearance standards. Small parking lot, 20 spaces. About half this lot is in a 500-year floodplain, so it's wet, so it's not usable. We got to put the building on the northwest corner of the lot nearest the road, which is the direction of 03 Sports, if you know that neighborhood. There will be a large retention basin, I'm sure. The team's been formed. We have an architect that the city is familiar with that's engaged and ready to begin work on the preliminary site plan tomorrow, which we intended to submit by the 9th of November. Our timeline's fairly aggressive, though we've been told that it's probably too aggressive. We're going to work diligently to get the ground broken as soon as practical. We've realized the bureaucracy of the city is going to be a little slower than we'd like to move through this winter, but we'll get through it and hopefully break ground first thing in the spring with occupancy intended sometime next fall to winter. We target September, more realistically December. But we have contracts out for quote with 6 different builders. We have 3 bids within our budget proposal. All the builders are local. All the builders are qualified. General contractors will be selected tomorrow if you approve the sale tonight.
Very good.
Happy to answer any questions.
Well, let me just assure you that if the preliminary site plan and final site plan, if there aren't major deficiencies, we will, staff and planning commission will move expeditiously to get you the approvals that you need to break ground and execute a quality project that will hopefully benefit the community in innumerable ways and allow an enterprise that's been in this area, as you noted, to continue to stay in the city of Saline. So, very good. We appreciate those comments. Before we open up for questions for either staff or the petitioner, Mayor Pro Tem Girbach, as a member of the negotiating team, do you care to make a comment at this time?
No, Mr. Gensheimer really covered the aspects of it, was the idea of retaining a business within the city of Saline. The property has been multiple times, it's had offers on it, but never anything come to fruition. And one of the things with it is that it's a type of building that potentially in the future can be reused quite easily, so that the goal of it, depending on whatever business goes in there, it's something that we can hopefully have reoccupied pretty quickly by another business. So moving forward with this, I think it's a good idea.
Very good. Mr. Seal, anything you'd like to add?
No, just to emphasize that I too think it's a reasonable offer and that I would recommend that council move forward with it.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Hang tight, because there might be some questions best addressed by you. Todd, are there questions for staff, our council colleagues, or the petitioner? Councilmember Krause.
Thank you. I just have a quick question. The unknown cost of making the land buildable, are you all confident that that has been factored in accurately and there's not going to be a surprise that it's more?
We don't know the answer to that question. So the contractor has selected a civil engineer. They'll come in and evaluate the site during the due diligence process. We'll determine if there's any surprises during that process.
Okay. Okay, that's it for right now.
Okay. Additional questions from the dais? Ms. Dillon?
Thank you. I'll start with a question for the city manager, just regarding the purchase agreement. Does this meet our new standards? It does embody?
Yes, it incorporates the new language around requiring a certificate of occupancy within 2 years, which, based on the aggressive timeline, I don't anticipate will be an issue in this case.
Will there be a surety bond required for this?
We have not been incorporating a surety bond. If that is a change we're looking to make more formally in the future, certainly something we could ask the attorneys to draft, but no, this project is not.
Okay. And then my last question is probably for Mr. Greene, which is, you made mention that this falls under special land use. Is there something specific that needs to be done for that?
The only thing, it's an extra meeting. That's why when we were talking, their timeline seemed aggressive because they will have to come back to city council to get that special land use request. So the way it's going to work, it's preliminary site plan, planning commission says yes, recommends council approve the special land use, then it goes back to final site plan. So it just adds an extra meeting, and especially during the winter time, it just depends when when meetings fall.
Thank you very much. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Additional questions from the dais? There appear to be none. Thank you. Thank you all. Is there discussion on the motion? There is none. We have a motion on the floor moved by CO, seconded by Camero-Sulak to acknowledge, to approve, and to authorize. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Todd, congratulations. Thanks for being with us. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda. First up is commission, committee, and task force reports from council members. I will start to my left and work to my right. Mr. Delorco, any commission, committee, or task force reports?
Yeah.
Please.
So the Environmental Commission had a real productive meeting this last time around. We invited Mr. Hodge from the Hodge Plastics Group LLC to give a presentation to the Environmental Commission to educate the body more thoroughly on options that may be available to us to be more cognizant and mindful of the products that we use and the services that are out there to harvest them and recycle them. Specifically with respect to our restaurant, small businesses, and looking ahead with an eye toward how to improve and streamline more sustainability and better practices for Summerfest and Oktoberfest events. It was highlighted and pointed out that the majority of plastic cups used at those events were a number 6 identified environmental, not really recyclable material, but he made us aware of various services where they would take those products back because, in fact, they're working with the companies that make them. So that's something we want to be keeping on our radar, and we want to work with Saline Main Street specifically to deal with this for Oktoberfest and maybe look at options for small businesses as well. For those of you that are interested in attending the MRF, there is currently a second tour being scheduled. I would encourage any of you to respond to the doodle poll that Ms. Getchman has sent out. That was a rewarding and enlightening experience, and everybody got freaked out when they thought it was going to be going till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but I guarantee you it won't last that long. It goes till about noon, and you'll only be out there for an hour and a half or 2 hours tops. So don't let that discourage you. Last, we have some ideas to mobilize an initiative to get some small business grants going from our approved budget with the Environmental Commission to kind of spend things down since we haven't been able to organize and run some of our events through the pandemic. So there'll be information forthcoming on that as we vet the process of how to make that practical and feasible. That's it.
Very good, thank you, and thank you, Mr. Delorco, for spearheading a trip to the MRF. As I indicated at one of our recent meetings, I think that would be enlightening and beneficial to council, and if the schedules of my colleagues permit, I hope you will attend. Mayor Pro Tem Girbach, any commission, committee, or task force reports?
Just a couple of them. Planning Commission has not met in the last couple, 3 or 4 meetings because we haven't had any issues going forward. Hopefully this one tonight we'll be dealing with that in the next couple of meetings. Historic Properties Group has met. We've discussed not only the lease and some interesting aspects of the lease that's been in place with the city and aspects that probably haven't been addressed in the past, including just a number of things such as a welcoming center and all those items that will be needed to be readdressed. We're also looking at the life school process and how they run their operations. And we've also decided that we're going to be looking at the property report that just recently was developed to help us kind of prioritize some of the ideas and things that we're looking forward in terms of the historic properties. As for risk management did come up. One of the recommendations that was part of our risk management assessment and the task force was to consider background checks for all members of council and planning commission and those type of things, similar to what we do for employees and staff. The idea being to protect individuals or to undercover any issues or concerns with those even that involve with young children or whatever, but really something that procedurally is being done in most all organizations at this point in time to determine if there's any concerns in terms of police record or whatever. And that will be in November, our next meeting, I believe.
There will be
procedural policy.
Yep, there will be a draft policy for council's consideration at our next meeting on November 15th. So if folks have additional questions or concerns about that issue, please direct those to either myself, the city manager, or Mayor Pro Tem Girbach in his capacity as the former chair and now a member of the Risk Mitigation Advisory Panel. Anything else, Mr. Girbach?
Not tonight, thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Dillon, any commission, committee, or task force reports?
Not at this time.
Mr. Seal?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Camero-Sulak?
Definitely, thank you. So on the consent agenda today, the Saline Youth Council has approved some recommended appointments to that council. So I'm happy that we are moving forward and looking forward to a very strong group and more outside activities as we move forward. The DEI committee met and we'll be coming out with a survey soon in the next couple of weeks, trying to get a gauge on residents' experiences living and working in Saline, and asking for input from citizens and of what else can be done. What would they like? There will be opportunities to volunteer. We look forward to more community input and voices. So anyone that's interested in volunteering for subcommittees for the DEI is welcome to apply. The Saline area schools will also be doing a survey, and we will be collaborating with them on the results. So we're getting a really good working relationship with the schools. And the Arts and Culture Committee, the DEI subcommittee has made contact with the Ypsilanti Educate Youth that will be working with Saline students. It's been a few years, but that is moving forward, and I look forward to getting traction on that through the winter and having an event here at the Saline High School in the spring. And that'll do it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Councilmember Krause, any commission, committee, or task force reports?
Thank you. Just one. The Historic District Commission we had our annual walking meeting, and we surveyed the east side of South Ann Arbor between West Henry and Pleasant Ridge. Those houses that are along that section, and everything looked really great, and the that section of town looked really nice. It was a nice fall night, so that was all I have.
Very good. Thank you. Just by a show of hands, if you have other announcements or reports? No? Easy enough. Then let's transition to our last discussion item, which is an update on hydrant flushing. Mr. Searles, DPW Director Searles, and then we'll transition into some brief comments on our water quality town hall, which will take place this coming Friday at 8 a.m.
Okay, good evening. As you know, our hydrant flushing, water main flushing program is done. Our expected and hoped for result has been accomplished. We're not getting nearly the complaints, just a couple isolated since we finished. We did meet with Eagle today. Bill Briggs was there, Colleen, and we talked about what we have planned operationally going forward to help mitigate this problem. The valve turning was well received, the valve assessment program, flushing of reinstating the dead end flushing monthly was well received, and complaint tracking and communication. I think our town hall is going to be a success. We'll have some options available, some good housekeeping for homeowners to help inside. We did discuss some of our ideas, not our ideas, but our upcoming inspection that's going to go with the meter changeout program. Eagle seemed to think that was a good idea, where we identify the plumbing, inventory the internal plumbing since we're there, and actually take some samples of solder. I think that was Bill's idea, and it's a great idea while we're there.
Director Searles, did you message to Eagle about the possibility, well, we will evaluate it, of course, but the possibility of implementing a policy regulating irrigation systems?
We didn't go that deep.
Actually, prior to you arriving, we did reference that.
Oh, okay.
And there was some support for that idea. They felt like if we had the data to support that was a driving factor in high utilization, then certainly limiting it, especially if our intent is to try and target a later September flushing, then certainly having those systems out of service by a date prior to then would be essential.
Very good. Yeah, I just want to make sure that that doesn't fall off the radar, because I think that's an important option to pursue. And if it would have a direct and unambiguous impact, a positive impact on quality, on water quality, then I think it ought to be, something ought to be implemented. So, not beholden to that, but certainly eager to evaluate it further. I messaged on this in my weekly communique, but I did attend, as did DPW Director Sherles, the Thursday, they meet weekly, of course, meeting of the Water Treatment Ad Hoc Committee. A bulk of that conversation was devoted to Friday's town hall, and we developed a sort of a rough outline and format for how that is going to go. There will be a PowerPoint presentation developed and shared on Friday. I think Director Searles and myself will be joining the water treatment ad hoc committee meeting again this Thursday morning to finalize details for Friday's town hall. But as the director said, I think we have developed, I think it will be an excellent program, informative, enlightening, and we're going to put strong emphasis on the fact that the complaints that we received of late are simply not accessible, and we are going to be working aggressively to mitigate these issues so they don't occur again in the ensuing years. Before I get Mr. Girbach, because I know he had a comment, City Manager O'Toole, anything else you'd like to add about hydrant flushing or our town hall on Friday? And I should note that we will be messaging again. We will be sharing a Zoom link because we want people to be able to participate remotely, especially if they're not on Facebook. And depending on the status of the new parking lot, there might be some additional messaging about where people ought to park if they're planning to attend in person on Friday.
That's just what I was going to message about. If you are planning to attend in person on Friday, we are expecting that the walkway will be reopened by then, but they are tearing out the walkway starting tomorrow. So if you are having access issues or you need access assistance, the easiest way to do that is parking on Harris Street or McKay and coming in from that direction. Or you can contact our front desk and we can have an officer take you in through the police department side of the building, which is accessible from that eastern parking lot.
Probably on Wednesday, I will reach out to our friends and our good neighbors at Robison Baumiller Funeral Home. And in the event that they do not have a function at the funeral home on Friday morning, which I think would be rather unusual, hopefully staff would be able to use that parking lot off of Detroit Street, off of Davenport Street, and thus allowing the members of the public who want to attend the ability to park in our municipal lot. Just get them a little bit closer to the front door, easier access. Anything else, City Manager O'Toole?
No, just that we do have confirmation from representatives from Eagle and the Washtenaw County Health Department to participate in that meeting, and I expect, based on our conversation with Eagle today, that we'll have a really good conversation.
Good. And I think I can confirm, too, we are still offering free expedited water tests.
Correct.
The containers with the instructions can be retrieved anytime between 8:30 and 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. From my conversations I had with Chastity and Miley today, and looking at the log, it appears as if the last container with instructions was retrieved on the 26th, so we haven't had a lot of interest in the last week or so, which isn't surprising because flushing has concluded and the number of complaints have declined dramatically. But I want to make sure that those who are watching or those who are in the audience this evening know that if you would like your water tested, certainly you're free to use an independent third party. But if you'd like to have city staff review a sample of your water, again, we are offering free and expedited water tests, and those containers with instructions can be retrieved at your convenience. Mr. Girbach, was there something that you'd like to add?
Just clarification on the Eagle meeting, was that in response to complaints that Eagle had received from us, or was it something that we had proactively scheduled to discuss our water quality?
It's something that we had proactively scheduled. So when I reached out to invite them to participate in the town hall, we agreed that it would be helpful to have them stop by the plant again, talk with us about what has been completed to date to address the concerns, and just to get a kind of snap assessment of the plant conditions.
Thank you for doing that. I think that's what we need to have happen more often, and welcome that approach. Thank you.
And for council's information, we did keep Eagle in the loop as the complaints were coming in. I did have conversations with our district engineer, so they were aware of what we were dealing with and what approaches we were taking.
Thank you.
Are there questions for the DPW director or city manager regarding hydrant flushing, water quality more broadly, or Friday's event? Mr. Camero-Sulak.
Yes, thank you. Just real quickly, I appreciate the proactive conversations having with Eagle. Is that something that we're instituting to really be on the same page with them and to gain their, gain their trust, letting them know what's going on and opening our,
It's been my experience, it's always better to tell them than hear from them calling you.
right.
So
I'd like to
keeping
see
them-
that
Keeping
continue,
them
yeah.
posted. And also, it's another set of ideas. You know, they might be seeing this somewhere else or went through it. It just, trying to bring the best quality water is always, our goal. So, yeah, just letting them know before they find out through other sources is a good policy.
Okay, I think that's a good approach. And then in your short time with us, do you feel that our relationship has turned a corner and that we are where we should be communicating and meeting all the requirements?
I feel, pretty encouraged. The district engineer, I was in contact with him within a week of hiring on. We had discussions about lead and copper. We had discussions about operator in charge. We're ready to submit our operator in charge forms. I think we have a good rep with Eagle, and yeah, I think we have a good relationship. Feels good, feels comfortable.
All right. That is a big positive. Thank you.
Additional questions for staff? There are none. Director Searles, thank you very much.
Thank you.
At this time, we come to the second public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time, make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any comments from the audience this evening? The record will reflect there are none. Clerk Royal, did we receive any written comments in which the individual wanted their thoughts read at this time? There are no public comments this evening. Is there any other business to come before Saline City Council? The record will reflect there is none. Please note our upcoming meetings, including one change, which is that we do not have a work meeting on November the 15th. We do have 2 visioning sessions scheduled, one on the 18th and then one again on the 23rd. And there will be a public participation component to those visioning sessions, as is our standard, and more information will be disseminated in the coming days and weeks. If there's nothing further, the chair would be delighted to entertain. I'm sorry.
I did want to point out that we do have an election tomorrow. The polls will open at 7 a.m. and close at 8. And also, if you are trying to get into the City Hall building, there will be access through the police department because our front ADA access will be torn up tomorrow.
Very good. Yep. Just please vote. As one of the great mayors once said, late mayor of Chicago, Mr. Daley, vote early and vote often. Do your civic duty. Thank you, Clerk Royal. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at 7:50 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Girbach. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Camero-Sulak. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.